Hi, this is JP Morgan. Today on the Slanted Lens, we're down here in Los Angeles. I've got Jenly Crespo with me. We're gonna take a look at backgrounds. I've wanted to do this lesson for a long time because when I look at student work, when I look at my own images, 9 times out of 10, the thing that kills it is the background. If you don't control the background, you're not controlling your images. I'm gonna give you 5 or 6 ways to control the background so that you can get great images. So let's look at each one of those ways. I'm gonna use a 70 to 180 millimeter lens. This is a Tamron 70 to 180 on a Sony A1. This is where it starts for me. I have so much more control of my background when I'm using that 70 to 180 because it allows things to fall out of focus. It makes me have to isolate things. But there are 5 or 6 techniques that are gonna really simplify that background and make your images so much better. So let's get started and see what we can do before we get ran over by a semi. So what do I mean by simplify the background? Very clearly, I want the background to be simple. It's going to not compete with my subject matter. It's going to give me a beautiful canvas that makes my subject matter the focal point of my image. Great composition means simplicity. My background should be the foundation for simplicity in my image. It can't be busy and garish and loud and hard. It needs to be soft and needs to disappear and just needs to be a soft, simple element in your composition. One of my go-to ways to get a simple background is just simply by focus. Long lens with a shallow depth of field gives you a beautiful bokeh out of focus canvas behind your subject matter and just really looks wonderful. A lot of people shoot at f/16 in this situation and the background is busy, it's just too lit, it just looks terrible. Even if you got a lot of sunlight back there, that shallow depth of field is gonna make that all melt together and it's gonna look wonderful. That's one of the reasons I choose the 70 to 180 millimeter lens is because I can let the entire background fall out of focus so easily. It's almost hard for it not to be, and that's what I love about this lens. If I'm outside shooting in the sun, I do not want to look into the sunlit side of the buildings and the trees. Right now I'm looking back at the sunlit side. Even though I put a translucent on her face, if I take a couple of shots here, the background is so busy. All I have to do is swing around her, 180, all the way around. When I swing around to this side, I'm now looking into the shadows of the scene, the shadow of the buildings, of the trees, everything. Even the cars in the front of me here are all in shadow. Now that makes my background darker. I've got a nice rim light on her hair, which separates her from that background and just gives me a much more simple background and a beautiful image. So I'm not in a beautiful place, but I'm getting a beautiful image because I'm letting the background fall out of focus, shooting into the dark shadows back there, and it just makes it so much more successful. It's really about how you set yourself up in relationship to the light and shoot into those shadows that makes a really nice image, gives that background a really deep look, falls out of focus, looks wonderful. A lot of times it's just a matter of being aware of your surroundings. I can photograph her against this tree, which is just so busy, but look for simple, solid colored backgrounds. If that gives you a nice wash of color in the background that's all the same, and shoot away. And especially if you can just drop to a really shallow depth of field, which I'm gonna do, it just looks excellent. If you wanna simplify your background, if you're shooting at eye level, I'm looking at her, I'm seeing the street and the trees and everything. It's just so busy back there, but there's tons of blue sky above her. If I come down, I've now pushed her figure up into that blue sky. I've got a beautiful blue canvas behind her and it simplifies and isolates her wonderfully. It's a great way to get a simple background. Just take an E. So the Tamron 70 to 180 is light enough that I can hand hold this thing and shoot on that longer lens without any problem, especially with the stabilization in the A1. It's just an easy platform to work with. It's lightweight and I can hand hold it. So in this situation, I've got so much busyness here and the background's very busy. So rather than trying to get rid of my background, I'm gonna use that background as a leading line. Right now I'm looking into just that wall, but if I just swing myself around slightly, now, and I bring her out to the middle, I can see all of this now becomes vanishing lines behind her, becomes a leading line right into my subject matter, strengthens the composition, and just looks fabulous. I often use smoke to simplify the background. If I'm shooting a fantasy portrait or something and I have complete control of my setup, I'll put a wall of smoke back there when I'm shooting outside because it just simplifies that background. It looks like a modeled backdrop. Recently, I just shot a commercial that had a World War II scene in it. We set it up in our backyard and I didn't want to see the pool in the background, so we put smoke back there. So I got all the things in the foreground and then the smoke just covered up the pool and the trees and everything in the background and isolated our subject matter and the stuff in the foreground and looked fabulous. So smoke just isolates and gets rid of things you don't want to see, like the pool in the middle of a World War II scene. So I want to thank Jenly for helping us to illustrate these principles today. I really feel strongly about the things we talked about in this lesson today because I feel like that if you pay attention to your background, try to simplify that background, and one of the ways that we talked about here today, your images are going to become much stronger, the composition has become stronger, your image is going to be much more powerful. So try these out, practice them, see if you can apply them to your own work. So special thanks to Tamron, who sponsored our lesson today. Loved using that 70 to 180 millimeter lens. So keep those cameras rolling.
And keep on clicking.
You got it.